about love is you never really know when it's coming, but you better believe you'll know when it's there. True story. I must have been searching, though I wasn't looking for much. Checking out the scene, wasn't trying to get my numbers up. You know I keep it cool. I prefer to stay in the cut. Don't want no attention on me when I'm trying to shake the blues up off me. But then I saw your face, it caused my heart to race. Girl, you're looking like $1,000,000. Something about the way you strut your stuff. Oh, girl, you're fine as you wanna.
What's up? Welcome to today's stream. Today is the 1st of July. Yeah, it's 1st of July. Saturday. And today I'm just going to be walking through one of the demo projects that you can find on Apple's website, on their documentation. I've actually spent a lot of time reading through the docs for visionOS and building a bit of an intuition for how this works. So I'll be sharing, certain resources that I found helpful. But first, let's go ahead and just jump into sharing my screen. I'm also about to eat because I got these giant figs. You can't even tell this fig. Hold on, I gotta switch back. This is a fig. It's freaking huge. Get it to focus. I can't get it to focus, but I'll put it next to my face. It's probably a quarter of the size of my face. Yeah, I'm extra excited about these figs. Delicious. All right, so I have this project up, and this is the project that I'm going to walk through today. And I'll explain bits and pieces, things that I guess are worth sharing, whatever. But first, let's just play with it. So, as you can see, actually, before I even start, let me also turn on my keyboard logging. Make sure that it's up. Yep, cool, we're working. All right, so there are some things that I've learned since the last time about how to use the simulator. It's a bit better. I mean, it's still frustrating, but if you're using a mouse like I am, there are some things that are worth noting. If you are in, am I even in there? So if you're in I think this is the select mode. Yes, to interact with the scene, what you could do is if you have a mouse like what I have, which has a middle scroll wheel click button, what you could do is you can hold that, and that will allow you to pan around the scene. Additionally, if you want to rotate around the scene, you can do this. Right click, your secondary click. So this is me rotating around the scene. If you would like to orbit around the scene, well, you can go down here to this little globe looking thing. And what you do is you click and hold, and as you move around, this allows you to orbit around the thing. And this right here allows you to kind of change the like the pan tilt, I guess. Is that what this control is? I actually don't know what this control is called. Yeah, this is like tilt, pan and tilt. And you do the same thing with the zoom in or walking to and from the scene. And you just click this, you move up to get closer, and you move back to get farther away. And by back, I mean move your mouse down. So down is back, up is forward. Additionally to that, you could use a trackpad. So let me get my trackpad to actually connect. So if you use a trackpad, it's a little bit different. So you use 2 fingers to pan around the scene, which is what I'm doing now. Well, typically I thought I would be able to do like the 3-finger drag, but unfortunately I can't. However, I can use the 3-finger drag here on one of these, I guess one of these little icons here, which is going to allow me to pan and tilt. This is going to be moving around, just translating in the scene, and this is orbiting. All right, so if you are on a trackpad system, this is I mean, this is how you can do it. I think it's a little bit easier with a mouse, to be honest. But that's just me. Anyways, some other useful things to note about this simulator is that you can always reset the camera using this right here. And I want to say that there should be a keyboard shortcut for that, but maybe there isn't. Maybe I just want that. Yeah, it seems like I just want that to be the case. Any case, some other things that you do with the simulator is change the scene. So if you clicked on these little mountain looking things here, you can go to a light or dark. Basically, it's daytime or nighttime. Additionally, we can go to different environments. So this right here is the kitchen, and we can see the kitchen at night. We kind of look around here so we can see what's here. All right, so just a different environment. And finally, we have a museum. So maybe this scene is better fit in a museum like this. And we can also go to the museum at night. So other things you could do is you could take screenshots within the simulator. You can also capture where your pointer is, and you can capture keyboard input. At the moment, there's no need for keyboard input, so I'm gonna leave that alone for now. Next is you can interact with these little UI bits down here. This long one is how you move the scene around the space, and this is how you close, and this will just take you back to the home screen. Let me delete some of these. I'm gonna remove that. Yep. We're also gonna remove this. These are my apps that I've been building, like learning this. But because I don't want to spend time trying to build stuff, and I'm instead just trying to show how this all works, that's why we're going to use a demo app here. So let's kind of look at this. All right, so I'm scrolling up and down. This is how you how you translate up and down using your scroll wheel. And remember, if you click the scroll wheel, that's how you can orbit or move your, basically this is how you can do that, right? All right, so let's click on Planet Earth, and we're gonna see that this opens a 2D window in a window group, and we have some text as well as an asset here. And if we look around, let's see if I can do this, you'll see that this is a flat, like it's 2D, right? That asset is 2D. However, we can actually view this asset in 3D by clicking this view globe, and that's going to open up a volumetric container or scene rather. So let's do that. It'll load. By the way, this loading happens asynchronously in a new reality view scene, or what is it? I think a reality view. This is a reality view. And this is a volumetric reality view. So if I kind of come over here, you can see that, you know, I have 3D. I can look at it in multiple dimensions. All right, and I'm just gonna kind of move this up here so we can interact with the globe. So this particular globe has the, it responds to gestures, and there is a, I'll go over that later. I'll go over how you can do gestures and targeting and all that kind of stuff. And let me make sure that my sound is on. Yeah, I guess it is. All right. Hard to know if, you know, if things are working when it's just me. In any case, I'm going to click these right here. So this control is bound to this 3D asset, which I want to say is a USDA or DZA asset, and you know, we're using a glass background effect so that these are visible within the scene. And here are some holes. So these are just new assets that we can then add, and these are probably set up and bound to this globe in Reality Composer Pro. I may go over that as well. I'm still learning Reality Composer, and I'm still learning all of this, in case that's not obvious. So there's a chance that, you know, I may not know something, but that's okay. I'll figure it out eventually. Okay, next is we're using physics. So to animate the rotation of the globe. And I'll get into the 3 different types of physics modeling that we have access to. And this right here is just controlling translation. So like we can tilt it depending on which equinox or solstice we're under. So just if it's not obvious, it's the summer and winter solstice, and then the other 2 are equinoxes. In any case, that's it for, I guess, this particular thing. So I'll go ahead and close that. Notice that this opened up a new window. I think that's worth noting. So when it opened up a new scene, or I'm gonna call it a new window, even though it's technically a scene. And we're able to close that window as well and move it around and place it individually. And I believe that's part of the window group, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. All right, so let's go back and let's look at this other one, which is a little bit more interesting. So this is a 2D window. However, it has 3D assets embedded in the 2D window. What does that mean? Well, if I do what I'm doing now, we'll see that it's part of that 2D window. However, this one has like 3 dimensions now. It has volume now, whereas the last one didn't. And let's do a before and after. I think that'll be easier to show. So if I just come here and do planet Earth, and oops, I may have to get my remote controller out again for this. But yeah, if I do this, it's just 2D, right? It's flat. There is no 3D-ness about it. However, when I go back to the other scene, there's 3D-ness about this. If I can get it to work. Yeah, so we see that this is 3D. And you'll also note that the window occludes the content. So it only appears in front of the window. So that's something, I guess, that's worth noting. So you have no indication that there's text or even content in front of this window, which means that the person who's looking at this, they will always need to be in front of the scene. So like that. All right, so let's go ahead and reset that. And let's also view the orbits. This one is a little bit more interesting because it has multiple assets and they're bound to one another. So you'll see here we have a satellite that's orbiting the Earth. We also have the moon that's orbiting the Earth, and the Earth is rotating. This one right here, this is the whole thing. So you'll notice if I move one, they all move. And you'll also note that there is no touch target on this. When I say touch target, I mean to create interaction, like to spin the globe around. This just happens. Here is just a demonstration of loading different 3D assets. Remember, these are all done asynchronously. So you need to wrap all of these in a task. All right, and let's go on to the solar system. This is an immersive space. So we went from a 2D window to a 2D window with a little bit more immersion to this, which is going to be full-on reality or mixed reality, whatever word you want to use. So we'll go ahead and do view outer space. And you'll see here that now we get a whole new UI, and we also get this element here to exit the solar system. And this is required because you need a way to enter and exit out of an immersive experience. So let's look around. So we'll see here that we have that satellite that's moving. This is the same asset. We've just scaled it. And there's also, the stars for the background. The moon is over here somewhere as well. And it's also moving. You just can't tell. It's moving very slowly because it's kind of far in the distance. So it looks to be moving slowly. And we also have the sun out over here. I'm not sure why it's flashing. That's interesting. This is new. Okay, now it's not flashing. I don't know what that was about. Huh. Interesting. All right, well, I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But anyways, you can see this is a fully immersive experience. So do is just exit out. At least I think I can exit out. Oh shit, did it just break? Oh gosh. Oh wait, no, I'm dumb. So this is something just to be mindful of. You always need to make sure you're in select mode. There we go. For what it's worth, I think the reason why the sun turned white is because I went through the bounds of the scene. And that's something that it's confusing really, because it happens to me a lot. Sometimes I will draw an asset and it won't even appear but it really is appearing. It's just somewhere else, and I had to look for it. So you'll see here that I've escaped the bounds of the museum, but I can also go underneath the museum. So let's go underneath, right? So like sometimes assets may be drawn beneath where you're looking. So just something to keep in mind if you are playing around with this stuff. All right, so I think that's good enough. So we'll go ahead and exit back. And yeah, we're just going to be walking through this. So I guess what I'll do is, I guess I can leave this open. I'm not, how much RAM is it? Oh gosh. It's using 16 gigs of RAM, over 16 gigs. I'll leave it open for now. I'm not touching swap. All right, so open up a new window. Okay, so here's the project. I've downloaded this from WWDC, or not from WWDC, I'm sorry, from the Apple developer docs for visionOS. This is the Hello World project. So I'll just be walking through, kind of explaining certain things. And I guess it's probably best to start from the entry point to this application. And the entry point to this application is inside of this world, and this is the app here, the world app. For what it's worth, any Swift UI app is going to have a file that ends in the word app, hopefully, and that is the entry point where you bootstrap your application and do all your things. So let's jump into that first. So we'll see that there's just one thing right here, the app. Which is what it should be, and it's marked as main. We're importing these world assets, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's just kind of walk through here. So this is using, I want to say this is using that new view model thing. So we have this state, and we're going to pull in our view model, go into that view model in a bit. We also have the orbit immersion style, as well as the solar immersion style. Now, it's my understanding that there are I think there are 4 immersion styles. I think there's none, or maybe there's 3. There's none, there's mixed, and there's full. But let's see, let's confirm this. So we'll do dot. Oop. Yeah. Well, wait a minute, hold on. I gotta make sure I'm in the right version of Xcode. Yeah, all right, cool. So we'll do this. And let's see what are the different immersion styles. Here we are. Yes. So there are 4, like I thought, but I guess one of them doesn't really count. There's the full immersion style, mixed immersion style, as well as a progressive immersion style. And yeah, these are all built in, which is kind of cool. So technically they're 3. I'm sorry. Technically they're 4, but I'm only going to count 3 because one of them is automatic, which, yeah. In any case, so we'll see here that our orbit immersion style is going to be mixed. However, our solar immersion style is going to be full. So remember in that demo, or maybe I can go back. If you come here, this was the full immersion, right? So this is what full immersion gets you. You get to look around and everything is, the scene or the, whatever it is that you want to see, right? And then the other one that we had is here. So the moon, telescope, that kind of thing. That is the second immersion style, or here, mixed. And progressive allows you to move in between the no immersion into full immersion. All right, so we'll see here that just like any other, I guess, view, that's what this is going to return. It returns a scene here. And we just have our window group, which is, this is what we're used to in like Mac OS land, stuff like this. It renders out your windows. You can have more than one if you want. And inside of this one window group, we have one view called modules. I'll go into that in a second. But the thing to note is this window style is plain. All All right, so let's go back to our demo so I can show what a plain window style looks like. This is what a plain window style looks like. There's nothing to it. There are other options that we can give this. Let me see if I can show some of them. Wait, oh, here we are. Why am I not getting completions? This is interesting. Okay, all right, cool. So we have 3 different ones that we could do. We could do a plain, which is 2D, like window style, and volumetric, which is 3D, right? And one thing that I want to show before I move on is if we go to new project, I'm not actually going to create this project, but I just want to show something. And I go to next. The initial scene is the app, the thing that is going to get bootstrapped, the thing that ends with app. We can select whether or not it's a window or a volume, right? And we can also select immersion space. Now I want to like just show that this window style corresponds to this initial scene here, right? So if we put window, it's going to be plain. If we put volume, it's going to be volumetric. And then this immersion style, well, I'll get into that later, but just note that immersion style is something that we set on an immersive view, like an immersive space view. So window groups have window style, immersive space have immersive style or immersion style. And immersive style corresponds to that right here. So we'll just cancel that. We don't want to do any of that. All right, so we have a plain window and we have a second window group. And this is the thing that displays the globe. All right, so this is how we were able to, let's come into here. This is how I was able to click view globe and have this render while also having this window here. It's because if we look very closely, that's part of a window group. And it's just going to show the globe. So we can have all of these things on at once, in air quotes. All right. I think I'll go ahead and move on. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and move on. The only thing to note here is that the window style is volumetric, and whereas the other one was plain. So 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D. All right, next we have 2 immersive spaces. The first immersive space is the orbit, right? So this is the mixed immersive space. So let me show what that is. So if we exit out here and come back to here and view orbits, this is mixed, right? So we can move this anywhere, and like as we move around the scene, it stays there. And I want to show how this is different from the other one that we looked at, and I'll go back to that in a second. Let me move. It's a little hard to fly around. I may have to get my controller connected, but I want to go behind the window and let's turn back around. And what you'll notice is that we can still see the content. That's the big difference here, is that an immersive scene is going to be rendered no matter what, whereas a window group is going to be occluded by the window. So let me show what I'm trying to, let me try to show this in another way. I really wish that I could use ASD like to move around this scene. That would be a little bit easier. All right, let's go back. Oops, I gotta make sure that I'm in select mode. We'll go back. And you'll notice that that volumetric space goes away, but let's go here and view the globe. All right, so if I, like, this looks to be 3D, and it is, but this isn't, it's not a mixed immersive style. So when I go behind my window, which is I'm trying to do, watch this gonna show it. Oh wait, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. I'm sorry. Gosh, how do I get... All right, let's just reset. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong one. What I meant to do is go to the one that we were just on. And you'll notice that this stays around because this is a window group. So that's one of the other differences. But you'll notice that, oops, I'm in the wrong one. You'll notice that, oh, come on, why is it doing this? Okay, all right, that was weird. So you'll notice that even though this is 3D, this satellite thing here, if I kind of move behind the window, you don't see it anymore. That's what I'm trying to get at. So this is kind of the difference between like an immersive, like a mixed immersion style and not, is that you can still see the things anywhere they're placed. All right, I won't belabor the point. Let's move on. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Wanted to reset. All right. So yeah, you'll see here the immersion style is mixed. And then we also have the solar system, and this one is full. Now note that we are using this $sign solar immersion style here. This is because it's bound. So like whenever this state here changes, this is gonna change. And this is really important because we need to be able to exit out of an immersive experience. All right, and then we have this initialization here, and this is just like some other stuff. I won't get into this, but I will kind of touch on components and what they are and some of the rules behind components. For what it's worth, entities are composed of components, and you can compose a reality view scene with entities. We'll get into that later. But yeah, let's go into this view model and see what kind of state we're keeping track of. No, don't do that. Just go to the thing. We are. Oh, I gotta eat more of this fig. It's delicious. All right. So this view model is an observable. I want to say this is part of the new Swift stuff. I haven't learned too much about this yet, but I will over time. So I know that this mark here is a way for the to help with documentation, which is kind of cool. And it also creates this little line here so you can easily separate certain parts or pieces of your code, which I think is really helpful. Back in my C# days in Visual Studio, we had this concept called regions, and it was like a pound region, and you could give it a name, and that would allow you to collapse that region and make it easier to navigate around a larger code base. So it's nice to see that you could do the same thing here in Xcode. All right, so let's look at some of the state that we're keeping track of. So we have our navigation state, and this is to help keep track of all of our navigation. So we have the navigation path, which is just this module here. Module is something that is defined. I'll we'll look at that. But it's an array of module content. And I want to say that when you give a navigation stack a path, it expects it to be as an array like this. The title text is, it could be whatever, but the title text is likely going to be the thing that's displayed here, right? Like that, the title text. All right, is title finished? This false. The reason why we have the is title finished, and I think it's worth, it may be worth to show this. Let me exit the app. I had to restart it from scratch for you to see it. Okay, nope. Okay, how do I stop the app? I need to like for real stop the app now. Let me see if I can, if it's running. No, it's not. Well, unfortunately, I can't show this, but when you first launch the app, and I don't know how to like get into the like the task manager in visionOS to stop things, but when you first launch this app, it animates the hello world, and that's what this is for. This is title is finished, and they're using a trick to maintain the layout of the view by having a hidden hello world text field that makes sure that as it's being rendered, there isn't layout shift, and this right here controls that. So it's like once it's finished, what do you call it? Once it's finished animating, we just show the hello world, and that's it. The final title is hello world. Remember, that's the thing that we're animating towards. I wish I can show that. I'll have to figure out a way to do that. Yeah, I want to figure out a way to show that. In any case, we also have 3 different entities. We have a globe, we have orbit, and we have a solar system. All right, so the first entity, our globe, we just have some state for whether or not we're showing the globe or not, whether or not the globe is rotating. So that's that little button that we can select. Let me go here. So most of that state corresponds to this right here. That's most of it corresponds to here. All right, globe tilt, none. This can be one of a few values, and I'll show you that one. So you'll see none, and then there's 2, the equinox. There's 3, a solstice. Another equinox is 4, and then another solstice is 5. So there are 5 different things that this can be. All right, and this configuration, I will go into this later. Orbit, again, we want to know whether or not we're showing or not. So that's, hopefully this is looking like a pattern. We want to know whether or not it's showing. We also want the thing itself. So that's what this is, the thing itself. And then here's the solar satellite, another entity that makes up part of the solar system. And then the solar moon, which makes up part of the solar system. And I just realized that I've gone into I skipped, and that's my bad. But what you'll notice is that they're all coming from the same place. We're able to reuse these entities in different scenes, which I think is the point that I'm trying to make, is that once you define an entity, you can easily go and use it in wherever you want, which is kind of cool. The final thing is we have the solar distance. It's just 7. I don't really know like what that is right now, because it represents like something that's scaled. So it's like, I don't really know. But the thing I do know is the solar position. And this is important because this is a Sim 3D or Sim D3, which is just like the 3 points in space that we can then put a point. So the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And we're giving this as a closure right here. And then just passing in or returning this array of things. So it looks like we're just hardcoding it, which is cool. So it looks like what we're doing is we're converting this to a float because we have to convert it to a float. So we just use, because there's no typing, we just initialize a float. And fortunately, this float knows how to go from this right here to a float. So the sign, it looks like we're giving the sign in radians, and we're gonna multiply it by the distance. 0. All right, cool. I want to say this is X, Y, and Z, but let's confirm that it's X, Y, Z. But it just says it's a vector. It doesn't really state which one is which, but maybe that doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter whether or not it's X, Y, or Z. Yeah, I'm just going to say it probably doesn't matter. It's a vector. Let's just look at it as a vector, a 3-dimensional vector. All right, yeah, so that's our view model. And yeah, so that's it for just bootstrapping the app. All right, so now we can kind of go into some of the assets first before I start going into other things. The assets are in this packages here. And you'll see here that we have one package called World Assets. And yeah, I'm actually going to explain how this works. It's fairly useful to know. So we define this package, and the platform right now is XROS. I think in the future this will be visionOS, because that's what it's called now. And then we give it the products, like the targets that are going to be produced from this thing. We're going to call it World Assets. And then the target here is just like, this is just saying that there are no external dependencies. If we open this up, we're also going to see this package here. Well, let's first go to the, please don't crash. Okay, let's first go to the code. I think it's fun to go to the code first. And the reason behind that is because we're just exporting this constant that points to the package content. So that's how all of this works. It's just, I'll show that. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So you'll see here that all we're doing is we're just declaring constants as a part of this, and it gets made available to us in our project. Anyways, let's go into this package, and you'll notice that it's just like whatever this is. I'm going to go ahead and open in Reality Composer Pro, and this is going to allow us to see if there are any scenes defined in the Reality Pro project, and you see that there are. So we'll brighten it up for myself. So it's a little bit of just things to note about this particular piece of software is that this right here is the main view editor. I'm sure that's obvious, but maybe it's not that obvious. On the right is our inspector, which is where we're able to set certain properties on the thing that we have selected. So you'll see here that I can do transform, which is positioning, the scale, how big or small it is, as well as the rotation, like in degrees. And also like the thing, like the reference, one of these assets here is the reference. We can add components to it. So this right here is a component. This collision is a component. This is a physics component. Here you'll see that the mode is default and the shape is a sphere. The reason why this has a collision component is maybe I want to interact with it. The radius has been, I don't know if this is automatically defined or if this was manually done, but there you are. And then there's this filter here, which we won't get into right now. But let's go to how to add components, because that's maybe useful to know if you're doing this on your own. You just come here inside of the inspector for the particular asset that you're on or entity that you're on. These are all entities, I should say. We're going to add a component. And from here, we have all of these different things that we can add. We can add anchoring, input target, particle emitter, audio, lighting, physics. These are all components. The thing to note is that we can add only one of each. You can't add 2 anchoring components. You can't add 2 collision components, just one of each. Now, multiple components will be composed to make a scene. So the scene inspector is up here. So let's open up another scene, because I should have another one. Wait, did it just crash? Okay, it didn't crash. Okay. I thought it crashed. I'm looking for the scene that I want to load. Or not the scene, I'm sorry. The scene. I'm tripping. Yeah, it's the scene that I want to load. For what it's worth, this right here is the project. This is at the bottom. It's a little confusing to me, but just something to note is that you can find all of your project stuff here. And you typically can double click one of these to open up the scene here, if there is a scene. All right, so here is another scene. This is our moon, and we can see that it's composed of these materials. This moon, ML moon, and it looks like, okay, I was about to say maybe this is this is coming from somewhere else, but it says that this is physically based, and that makes me think that maybe it's taking it from this image here. So you can take these images and you can use that as a layer per se. And if we look very, very, very closely, I don't want to change this, but it looks like I may. There's this little, hopefully this is obvious, the moon base color. That's what this is here, the diffuse color. We're using that. So what's cool about this is that for each one of these little things, each one of these properties, opacity, normal, metallic, roughness, not only can you give it just a color, but you can just import an image, right? So see here that it's white now because I took that image off. However, if I put that image back on, which let me go into the moon, that back on. Now we get what we expect it to be. And the roughness is also coming from an image, which is here. So if I remove the roughness, you'll notice that it looks slightly different. Maybe you all won't be able to see this because you're watching, because you're looking at it on YouTube when I'm doing 1080p and it's also not the best quality. Just, yeah, it's not as rough anymore. But if I add the roughness back, let's go back to our moon. Add roughness. Now we get back more like depth in the asset. All right. Some other things to note is we can change just how light interacts with things, and that's what this index of refraction is. And we also have ambient occlusion, which is let me take that off. Let's see. All right, so if we move up, oh gosh, I just realized that the Reality Composer Pro doesn't behave the same way as the simulator. So I've lost myself. Now I have to figure out how to reset. I actually don't know how to reset where I am. Azerbaijan. I want to go one day for the chicken. Every country has issues though. But I know like I think they're going through some stuff with Armenia, right? Armenia. As well as maybe some Soviet related stuff. Or Russian. Not Soviet, I'm sorry, Russian. Oh yeah, that's why I would go. To nature. Also, I want to go to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan for nature, for the mountains. Central Asia is beautiful. Like, it's really beautiful. I think some of the largest rolling plains, or not plains, but maybe they are plains, like grasslands or whatever. I think they're there. And because there's not a lot of people there, like it's kind of untouched. It's in its natural state of beauty. Well, it sounds like you may have went with expectations, which I would almost argue is the worst way to go anywhere. Don't carry expectations anywhere you go. Just go in and see, right? Like, it's all Earth. Like, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but there's always something cool to see, like mountains and different animals, if you're into that. For me, it's like different spices. I love seeing different spices and fruits, vegetables. Kind of like eating, food. All right, now I'm eating this giant fig. It's delicious. All right, I'm just going to exit this because I don't know how to find where I am. So I'm not going to save it, and I'll just reopen it. I think that's the easiest way of going about it. So we'll go back to the moon and do that. Ah, shit. Dang, that didn't do what I thought. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay. I was like, hopefully it'll just reset the camera. It didn't, but that's okay. All right, so I think it's important to see that this right here is I think this is the actual component. Like, this is the translation part, the transform. So you'll see here, this is a material. This whole thing itself is the component, but we can then look at specific parts of the component. So in this case, it's going to be just the translation bit. And the entity itself has the collision component added to it. We can add other ones as well, like the physics body, physics motion, that kind of thing. Well, okay sounds good to me. Nothing wrong with okay. What did you do? What cities did you go to? Now, I will admit that I understand the history of Azerbaijan, and I do understand that, it's technically a third world country, and I don't mean like in the sense that most people think of third world. Third world meant it wasn't, actually no, it may be a second world. I think it's a second world country. I think they were aligned with the Soviet bloc, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Anyway, so this is Reality Composer Pro. We'll jump into this later. I think maybe. I just now realized that we can move around. They just moved this little part from the right side to the left side, which is very confusing. I don't know why it's not the same as the simulator, but it is what it is. So I'll go ahead and minimize that. And let's look at some of the other things that we've defined, like our solar system. So in visionOS, they use this system called ECS, Entity Component System. And the way it works is entities are composed of components, and a system is composed of entities, but there's also logic involved, like logic and state. So let's run through this after I finish eating my thing. Okay, so first things first, we have the sun position component. This is for the solar system, right? So the fully immersive space. Let's go to that just to show it. We're looking at the sun right here. If I can get it over there, yeah. Maybe I need to scroll up. Yeah. So we got our sun, which is here. That's positioned somewhere, right? And then we have our Earth, and then as well as a satellite that's orbiting. We're going to be able to see all of these entities that make up the system. Let's go over here. All right, so here is our sun position component. This is where the sun should be located. All right, so yeah, that's it. It's just where we're going to put the sun. We'll see this a little bit later, actually. Next thing is we have the sun position system, right? So here's where a system is somehow different. Is that we can do things, like we can move objects around, we can show or not show, we can query for certain things, and that's what's happening here. So this first thing here is a query. We're going to do an entity query, and we're going to just look for where the sun has a position. Like we're just looking for where the sun is. All right, you need to have an initializer even if you don't do anything in it. That's one thing that's required here for a system, is that they must be initialized. There's no optional one. So if you don't have any state to set, just mark it as empty. It doesn't matter. You just need to have the thing. The next thing is this update function, which is how how it knows where to place entities. All right. So we're going to get context, which is the scene update context. And then we're going to iterate through all of our entities. Remember, we can have more than one entity. So we're just going to iterate through our entity, and that's coming from context. And then we want to match on only certain types of entities. So this is how we pick out the entity that we want to work with. So you'll notice here that we're picking out self.query. So we're literally, it's just this right here. We're looking for the sun position component. And then when rendering, I actually don't know when this, I don't know what this is yet. Let's see if I can learn that. Condition that is active whenever an update for rendering may be needed. This usually matches the okay. All right, cool. All right. So we have this guard here, and this is just to make sure that there is a sun position component and it's not nil. So we're just doing this guard here, and if it's nil, we continues. Remember, we're in a loop, so we'll just go on to the next entity. If there is no entity, we'll just exit the loop. The next thing is we have the rotation, right? And we can specify the rotation in angle, like in degrees or in radians, I think. Yeah, anyways. So we have here, we're going to set our angle to this constant, and we're just going to say entity orientation dot axis dot y is less than 0. So we have a ternary here. So if this is less than 0, then we want to return the current entity's orientation angle, like whatever it is now. Otherwise, we want to multiply that same angle. Well, we technically don't want to multiply it, but we want to multiply pi. We need to get diameter, right? And then we're going to subtract that from our angle, or angle from that. I think that's the right way of saying that. We're going to subtract this angle from this expression here. So 2 times pi. So 2 pi minus the orientation angle. And I'm sure there's a reason why. I need to go back to doing geometry to figure this out. I don't actually know right now off the top of my head. The next thing is, look, we're going to just combine their entity's rotation with an offset. And this is relative to the sun and the entity. So we're doing some math. I'm not going to walk through that. But it's fairly straightforward if you understand math. It's not that hard. All right. Next thing is we're going to set the sun's position on the entity itself. So now here's something that's a little bit strange. entities technically don't have a function called set position or set whatever that is. And the way we're accomplishing this is with an extension. So we can just extend the entity, and that's what we have here, public extension entity. And we can add these other things onto the entity so that we can do whatever we want up here to make our lives a little bit easier. All right, so let's see what we're extending our entity with. We have the sum position component, which is going to turn a maybe sum position component, or a nullable, if you will. And it's a property, right? So it's just going to return whatever's in that component array, and it's just going to return itself. And the set is the same thing. We're just going to go to wherever itself is, and we're going to put that value in there. I think it's important to note that this is it's like a hash value or something like that, or a pointer. I'm gonna call it a pointer, a reference in memory. All right. We also have a model component, which is the same thing, right? So it can be either nothing or something, and that's what this little question mark here means right there. Next, we have the get model descendants. This is a function that's going to return an array of entities. And the model descendants is, I want to say it's a query, but I mean, let's confirm that this is a query. So we're going to create a new descendants entity array. And then for every child and children, I'm not really sure where children comes from. This is new for me. I don't actually know where children comes from, so we'll discover that together. But this child has components, so this must be entity. This has to be an entity then. And then we're going to go to the model component itself. It's not equal to nil. Okay, so we're doing a bit of a filter. We're saying if it's not equal to nil, then we want to add that child to the descendants array up here. Otherwise, we want to append the contents of that child. Okay, otherwise we want to append whatever the child's descendants are. And then we're just going to return the descendants. Okay, let's figure out where children's coming from. Child entities that the entity manages. Okay. Okay. So I have a hunch. Our children must be a property or something that I can access from here. So let's go to the main developer docs here. Oh, cool. We have visualization of kind of what I was trying to explain. So we have our scene, and then we have entities. And these entities themselves have components, which are down here. So we have a transform component, synchronization components, anchoring components. And for what it's worth, if you add anchoring components, it becomes an anchor entity. We also have model components, like for physics and all that. And if you have one of these or some of these, it becomes a model entity. And maybe I will go over all the entity types, because there are some that are already here for us. Although I'm not sure if we're going to see those here. Right? No, I don't see them here. So I'm just gonna. Oh wait. No, we have anchor entity, body track entity. I don't see all of them though. But I guess that's okay. Well, in any case, let's look for children. That's why we came here. So children. Look at that. So it is a property of the entity. And we see children is entity.child collection. And it's just the child entities that this particular entity manages. So this is just going through all of the entities that are managed by this particular entity. And it's going to filter out its own children based on this condition here. Whether or not the child's components is part of this, like if this model component is not equal to nil. So we're basically filtering. All right, this next piece is, well, it says it's informing materials about the position of the sun. Let's see, the parameter position. This is cool to see docs. This is useful for me because I want to improve the documentation for one of our SDKs. And this seems like a really good thing to do, where it's like we just add our parameter, the name, and then like what is it? So this says it's an angle expressed as a float where 0 corresponds to 0 degrees and 1 corresponds to 360. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we're gonna do something looks like the same. we're going to get our descendants. So we're just calling this function up here that we've defined. So it's just doing all this. All right, so once we're going to get our descendants, we're then going to iterate through all of our model descendants. And we have this guard here. And what is this guard? We're model entity.model component. All right, so if this is nil, we just return. We don't want to do anything. Otherwise, we're going to do some stuff with it. So it's right here. It's tell any material that has a sun angle parameter about the position of the sun, so it can adjust its appearance. I wonder if appearance is light. Let's see what that means. All right, so we're going to go to our model component materials. Okay, which is here, the model component dot materials. And I want to show. I think it's important to show how this is behaving or where these materials are coming from. So here's the entity, or the model component, if you want to call it that. And here are our materials, right? So we have a few materials here, or just one in this case. So that's what we're iterating through. Okay, so we're going to do a map on it. So we want to apply a function to transform it into some other values of the same type. So we have our map. And we're going to create this guard. Okay, so we have a guard material is equal to whatever the first element passed to that map is. So it's just the value of the current entity component. I'm sorry, not the current entity. It's the value of the current material in this loop. So if you can imagine, we have a list of materials. This $0 is a pointer to the current index. So on the first iteration is going to be the first element, and then on the second iteration is going to be the second element, but we reference it as $0. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just say, and I'll try to re-explain that. All right, so we're going to try to set up material. So we're going to do this $0, and we're going to have to cast this. So we're doing this as, and then this can fail, right? This can return null or nil. We're going to do shader graph material, else just return whatever it is. All right, so it seems that if we can't convert it to a shader graph material, we're going to just leave it alone. So that's what this map is doing initially. All right, so once we get have our material, we're going to check to see if the material's parameters names, if they contain this sun angle parameter name. So this is literally a filter. If it contains it, then we're going to do these things. Otherwise, we just skip it. So if it contains it, we're going to do this right here. Just do catch. This is like try catch, except I don't understand why it's do catch, but other than it's just Swift and Apple, and that's what they want to do. In any case, we're going to wrap this in a do catch so that we can have error reporting, and we're going to do this thing right here that can fail, so we have to mark it as try. So we're going to do material.set parameter, which I want to say that may be, let's see, I want to say that this is an extension, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll see later. All right, so we're going to do set parameter, and we're going to pass in name as well as the current value. Let's float position. Where is the position coming from? I actually don't know where this position is coming from. Unless position is a property on the entity, that could also be a thing. So let's see. It doesn't state that there's that's there. So position, I have no idea what this is, where this is coming from. No matter. I don't have to know what this is yet, and I don't think you all need to know what that is yet. It could be somewhere defined here. We'll figure it out. All right, next we just set our model component. That's all we're doing, right? So once we do the things, we then update effectively. All right, so that's our sun position system, and then here's our world assets. So you'll see here's just a pointer to the bundle, a scene name. We could set the pan speed parameter name, right? So if we want to animate something, we need a way to reference it, and this is how we can do that. All these other things we'll move on. It's not that important. All right, so let's go to modules. This is where we start getting into more fun things. So the modules is this thing here. Let's close here. On to reset. Oops, shit. Oh, damn it. Oh, look, here it is. That's the animation that I was trying to show. So it crashed. I don't know if that was obvious to anyone but me, but the app crashed. So it was, I guess that's the only way I can show the animation. But anyways, this is the modules view. All right, so you can name views whatever you want. It's called modules because we have 3 different modules. We have a planet Earth module, objects in orbit module, and a solar system module. And if we come here, we'll see here that in our preview, it's just that, right? It's a module. And we can also interact with it, which is kind of cool. All right, hold on. I'm going to eat this. This is like my 4th or 5th pig. I bought like 6 of them. They were $10, but they're so huge. Like they're huge. The size of my mic. All right, so let's go through this modules view. Starting from the top. So how do I know it's a view? Well, it has this protocol here where it conforms to the view protocol. And I also saw body, which I just know, like anything that has a body. I've been trained that if you see body, it's probably a view. Bodies have to return some view, so we're doing that here. There are some things that are new-ish to me. I have just started learning about environment. Let's see what Apple has to say. I want to use their words if possible. So it says it reads value from the view's environment. All right, let's see if the overview gives anything better. Use environment property wrapper to read a value stored in the view's environment. Okay, well, that's the same thing. All right, in any case, this is how we're able to move around scenes. That's the thing that I know for now. Like we know whether or not a particular window or scene has been dismissed or opened. And there are other things that we can get from environment. In fact, let's see what are all the things we can get from our environment. Wait, what did I just click on? I thought I clicked on environment. Oh, okay, never mind, I did. Yeah, so I think these are all of the things that I can get from the environment here. And it does use this weird slash dot. Whatever. I mean, I now know it, but it's just still weird to me. But yeah, if you there all these things that we can get, like there's dismiss search, dismiss window, the open immersive space, which I think we saw, maybe we didn't. If we didn't, then we'll definitely see that. That's how we open immersive spaces, as well as dismiss immersive space. There's documents, there's open URL, like all kinds of things we can get from our environment. And we just call this here and we just assign a variable to it, and that allows us to do things with it. All right, so all we're doing is we are going to get our view model. All right, so we're getting that from the environment. Remember, we set up our view model here. So here, the state private view model equals view model. And then we come here and we were just getting that view model. Oh, cool, it does animation here. That's cool. Realize that. Okay, let's go through this. So we have a bindable. This is so that we know anything, basically anything that we can observe that changes. Maybe we want to react to it. Then we would use this bindable attribute here. Let's see if Swift has anything to say. No, not really. It's a wrapper type that supports creating bindings to the mutable properties of an observable object. Maybe you're wondering, like, what observable object? Well, remember that this model up here is technically of type view model. And if we go to view model, again, that thing that we were looking at, this right here, we see that it's attributed as observable. So essentially, anytime one of these values changes, a message will be sent that, oh, this is updating or did update or will update or something like that. And once it updates, what did I just do? Go back to here. Yeah. Once it updates, this bindable here, it will be notified. And because this is notified, anything that's using this $ model will be updated as a result. So that's how we're able to have our views to re-render without having to do it imperatively. We just let state change, and then the view will recompute itself and re-render itself. All right, so let's kind of walk through this. Just note at the bottom we have this preview here, and we're passing inside, like as in the environment, a new view model. So we're literally newing up a view model, and we're just putting that inside of our environment here. All right, so we have a Z stack, and then we have some solar system controls, but note that you won't see these solar system controls unless we're showing the solar system. All right, so this model is showing solar system. Remember, if maybe you don't remember, let's do it again. If we go back, so remember all of this here where it's like it's showing. This is how and where we're keeping track of that, is here in our view model. Wait, why do I keep losing where I am? What's going on? All right, so you'll notice that currently we don't show that. However, let's show it. Let's just say let's just do 1. We're gonna always show it. Oh yeah, it's good. Okay. All right, this may be a little bit harder to show than I thought. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wow. I just learned that I can use my side mouse, side scroll to move around in one direction. Although it flips to the opposite. It's interesting. Okay. All right. So let's turn this back to 0. I was expecting to see my controls, but maybe, I don't know. I don't know why I don't see them. Unless they're somewhere else. That's one of the things that I've also learned, is that I have to look around the entire scene because it could be somewhere. It's just not where I think. But no, it looks like it's definitely not here. All right. Well, anyways, just move on. All right. Our main navigation element is this navigation stack, and this is how we're able to like move around and open up different things in our application. Here we see that we have a table of contents, which we'll go to that in a moment. And then we set this navigation destination, and this is of the module, right? So like of the thing, the module. And I think I'll be able to show a module in a bit. So this right here is a closure. And what we want to do is pull the details, like, because this is a, here, let me click this way. Sorry, I have to, you know what? Maybe it's easier if I reset. So you can reset in here as well. It's just a slightly different, I think. Wait, I thought it was this one to reset. Oh gosh, do I not know how to reset in the preview? Oh my gosh. Let's see how we can do this. Wow, I thought that's how I thought I could reset. Okay, all right. Well, this isn't fun. All right, anyways, so this is the detail view, right? So we want to pull out the details for a particular module. That's what this is doing for us. And this title here is this little thing right here, right? So let's go into the table of contents just so that we can see some stuff. All right, here you'll notice here we're also getting the view model. So that's like the thing that controls everything is our view model. And this is going to return a view, and we are binding to that model. So if anything changes, we can update that model, and if the model changes, we can update the view, and vice versa. So first thing is this image sun sliver. That's this little thing right here. And the opacity is based on whether or not this title is finished. So remember when I was like, it animates this hello world, you didn't see the sun until this finished animating, right? So if this is currently finished, which is true, we're going to return 1. But let's make this 0 so that it never shows up, just to show that it's just an image, right? So now when we redo it, it's going to do the rendering, and then we see our sun once it's done. The spacer is literally just that. It's just the space between this image and here. Next, we have another VStack. VStack is a vertical stack, by the way, which is why the text, the title is here, and then the subtitle is here. It's because it's a VStack. So our first thing is our title text. Title text is a custom view, which is defined down here. All it is it's just going to return the text. We're going to monospace it, and we select the system size font of 50 and make it bold. That's all we're doing. So title text is that, and the reason why it's defined down here is just to clean up code, and we may use it in more than one place. All right, so we have our title text, and notice that this is coming from our model, the final title. Remember, the final title is hello world. Let me just show that just to remind you. So here, final title is just hello world. Next, we're going to add some padding around it. Cool. We have it hidden initially, and this is what I was trying to say. So this is hidden because we want to maintain the layout while that animation is happening. However, when the animation finishes, we want to then show the hello world, which is what's happening here. And I even think that's what they say here. Yeah, they do say that. All right, so this overlay doesn't really matter, but I will talk about it. So this title text is the model title text, and this is the thing that's being animated, right? Next, and before I move on, the reason why it's overlaid is because, that's how, I don't know how else you would accomplish this. It needs to be overlaid on top of the other one so that when you remove one from the other, it looks like it's there. I know I'm hand wavy, but I don't know how else to explain that one. Anyways, the next thing in our VStack is this text, discover a new way of looking at the world. And the opacity is controlled again by this is title finished. So we only want to show these things after hello world has been rendered. We do some alignment. We have a custom alignment guide, and we'll go over this in a bit, because technically that earth guide is not an alignment that Swift knows about unless you define it. So we define that somewhere else. This takes in a closure, so we're going to get context, and then here is where we can say where to put it. So vertical alignment top. Give it some padding. Next we have this little bit down here, which is a horizontal stack, which is why it's going from left to right. So we have our H stack, and we align items to the top with a spacing of 30. And for each module, so that's the thing. So the module, we'll go into that in a bit, but we've kind of seen the modules thing, but we'll also go into the module thing. So for each one of our modules, we want to create a module card. All right, so this module card is another view that it's a custom view, essentially. So the module card is this, a day in the life, planet Earth, a lot goes into the making. So instead of having to do this several times, we just make a card and we just call it, and we pass in the module in question. So remember, this $0 is how you access the current element in an iterator. You don't see it here, but it's there. It's just $0. It's kind of weird, but there you are. And again, notice here that we only want to show it after the title has finished rendering or animating. Next, we have a spacer. And next, we're going to give it some padding. And then this .type text here. So the type text is the animation, right? So when it says hello world, that's the type text. And let me see if I can get this to show again. The type text, that's what this is. It's type text. Now, one thing that I'm not sure of at the moment is whether or not this is a custom thing or if this was defined. We will find out a little bit later, but it takes in our text, our final text is finished and is animated. I'm wanting to say that this is custom. All right, finally we have a background, and we're using that earth guide, which is, again, that's a custom alignment property. And then we're going to give it an image, this earth half, that's what this is here. And again, we're going to align that according to our earth guide. All right, and we're going to do this right here. So we're going to push it up 500 or 100 units from the top. And we have an animation. And I think this is, once the title is finished, it fades into the next thing. That's all it is. All right, so next let's go into this vertical alignment here. This extension, this is how we're able to use earth guide and alignment. It's because this is a vertical alignment extension. We're just going to add a earth alignment, which has to conform to the protocol alignment ID. And alignment ID only has to have this right here, default value, and then the view dimensions. So in this case, we're just going to get that from context. We're just going to say vertical alignment.top. For what it's worth, context is defined as part of vertical alignment. So here, the default value is view dimensions, and yeah, we're just going to do our vertical alignment top. And then we have a custom alignment guide. This is for the pins, which we haven't seen yet, but we will eventually. All it is just this vertical alignment, and we're passing in ourselves. All right, so this is how we're able to use, I guess, words that make sense for what we're building, which is something to do with Earth and the moon and all of that. All right. Let's go on I want to go to the module if I can find it. So here we are, our module. So you'll see here that this is in our model, and there's all of our content essentially. So for each module. So let's go through this. We'll see that this is defined as an enum, which means that we can do all of the switching, we can have related data and all that kind of good stuff. It looks like it conforms to the string protocol, which means that I think that it means that we can print this out as a string. I think that's what it means. Identifiable. We need to have that because we're putting it in arrays and we're doing stuff with it. As well as it's in an array. So if we change something, we need to be able to identify which one we're on and which one changed. Case iterable. Well, because we want to put this in a loop, which we've seen already when we iterated through all our modules, this is how we're able to iterate through it. We just have to put case iterable on the enum. And then equatable is just like how we can do equality. So we absolutely need to have that. Turn down my mic. I realize I'm clipping. All right, so first thing we have all of the different things that we could have. We could have globe, order, or orbit, and solar. Here's the thing that satisfies our identifiable ID. We just grab ourselves. And then this name here, string raw value, capitalized. I'm not really sure what that does other than it allows us to easily figure out which view or which module we're on. Okay, so we have some properties. We have the eyebrow, we have heading, abstract, overview, call to action, and font facts. All right, so let's go through the cases first, because this is how we keep all of these related pieces together. So let's say that we're on globe. Whenever we call eyebrow, it knows that we want a day in the life and planet Earth, and a lot goes into making a day happen, and you can't feel it, and view globe. All right, so this is how we're able to kind of keep related things together. So we have for eyebrow, we're just switching on ourself. Here we're switching on ourself, and if we're on globe, we're going to return this, vice versa. We do this for all of them. All right. Now the thing that is a little bit different is our font facts. This is just an array. All right, so this means that if we wanted to pull out anything from this array, we're going to be doing this based on index, or maybe we're just going to pull all of them out. I'm not really sure at the moment, but it's just useful to see that this is where our module is defined, and we also have a view to work with our modules, which is this thing right here. All right, so our modules here, And I want to go over this again because now that we know what a module is, we can do this. So our table of contents is going to give us modules. All right, so let's go back to our table of contents. Where's our module at? Here we are, right there. So for each module, all cases. So I want to say this is a property of like the case iterable protocol, which gives us all of the cases. So we have 4. This is going to be or 3, I think, which is orbit. I've already lost it. We're not going to go back, but it's orbit and Earth and something else, I think. So this is just going to go through all of them and create a card for it. So we have 3 cards, so there must only be 3. All right, let's look at our module card. So we see here it's pretty straightforward. It's just a navigation link, right? So it's a navigation link because if we click it, we want it to do something and like take us somewhere. So that's why it's a navigation link. And notice that the value is a module, right? So it's one of those enum types. We're going to create a VStack. We have some text, this top text here. And then we have another VStack to have the module heading, this thing right here, as well as the abstract, this thing right here. Looks like we give it some padding and then we make it a borderless button. The shape is a rounded rectangle and the frame is 200 by 380. I don't think that you will see this here because like it's like you don't see the border because it's borderless, but I think the touch target is a rounded rectangle. And notice here that in our preview, we're just doing all of our module cards as an H tag. So if I were to remove this, we would only see 2. And we're putting that glass background effect here so that we can see it. Like, let's see what happens if we remove it though. You'll notice that you don't see it. I mean, you can, but it's harder to see. So we put that glass effect so that we have more contrast and can see things. Next, we have our module details. And this is, remember, the detail view where you can see more information. And this view is a little bit more to it, but it's not that hard. But first, let me finish eating my fig. Oh my gosh, so good. All right. So we're doing some things that should be very familiar by now. We load our model from our environment. We get it from our environment. And we need to have a handle to the module. All right, so we're going to pass in the module whenever we initialize this particular view. And then our body, we're binding to our model. And this geometry reader, this is important because we may want to be able to get the size of the window that we're being drawn in and do some things based on that. So that's what this geometry reader is for. It gives us a closure that we can work with. It's going to give us a proxy. Let's see what this type is. It's not going to tell us, but hopefully this will tell us. It's a geometry proxy. Yeah, cool. Here we are. So these are the things that you're going to get from that. You're going to get the size as well as the safe area insets. Right. So like, let's say you're on an iPhone. If you're on, whatever iPhone this is, the 14 Pro, I think. Yeah, the 14 Pro. It has a dynamic island and you don't want to draw there. This geometry reader will give you that information. Like that's what the safe area insets are. In any case, so looks like we're grabbing this proxy because we want to grab the minimum of either the window or just 500. So whichever is smaller. It looks like that's what we want for the text width as well as the image width. So we're looking for the max between our proxy size width times some scale factor of 4.4 and 300. So it looks like no matter what, we're going to try to figure out like which one of these is bigger, and then we're going to select the smaller of both of those. That's what's happening here. Next, we have a Z stack, and inside of that Z stack, we have an H stack with spacing of 60. The H stack is this right here. So we have one element of the H stack and two elements of the H stack here. So left is 1, right is 2. All right, so inside of our H stack, the first thing, this left side is going to be a V stack. So we're going to have title, content, and probably this button here. So we have our text of module heading. So that's what that is. And notice that this is coming from the module, not the model, the module itself that we're passing in. Next, we have the module overview, which is this bit right here. And remember, in that enum, it's defined. Let me just go back to it. So here, so we have our overview. It's just going to each one of these properties here. That's all it's doing. All right, so we have our module overview, and we give some padding, and then we do a switch on the module. So we want to do something based on what type of module we're in. Now we know that we only have 3 modules, although I thought we had to do exhaustive. I can't even say it. Exhaustive case matching or matching. I thought we had to do that, but maybe that's not the case. In any case, we have our, oh, maybe this is exhaustive. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is exhaustive. My bad. Okay. So we have, if it's a globe, then we're going to have a window toggle. If it's an orbit, we're going to have space toggle and then space toggle. These are probably separate views, and they're defined down there. So let's go through each one of these. The first one is our window toggle, and it's going to just be the title ID and the is showing. So this is going to control whether or not we're showing the globe or not. So let's go to our window title to see how that's working. We'll see here that this is returning the view, and that this is specifically for Windows. So we're going to pass in a title and an ID, as well as the is showing. And note here that we mark this as binding. So if we change it here, it's also going to change in our view model, which, you know, we're passing that down. Where is that? Here. We're passing that down with the $.mobile is whatever. So this is a binding, and title ID is showing. So those are our 3 properties that we need to pass. So title ID is showing, except one is a binding. Next, we have the environment stuff. So this is how we know whether or not we're going to open a window or dismiss a window, or how we can call open window, I should say. So we have that. And next, we're going to render out the actual view, the body of itself. And we have a toggle component. This is a Swift UI toggle component. And we give it the title as well as whether or not it's on. And notice here that we're just calling $ is showing, this binding here. So whenever this changes, we're going to set it, right? So this on change, and we're going to say of what, which is the is showing, the thing here that we're binding to. And this is going to give us a closure, or expects a closure of what's showing and is showing. We don't really care about the was showing. We only care about is showing in this case. So we're just going to say if it's showing, then we're going to open the window. And which window are we going to open? Well, the one that we passed in as the ID. Otherwise, we're going to dismiss the window. Which one? The one that we passed in as an ID. And here we'll see here that we're setting the toggle style to a button. All right. So that's all these are doing. This right here. The space toggle is pretty much the same thing. The only difference is instead of opening up a window, so that was the thing that I was kind of hinting at earlier. Instead of opening up a window and dismissing a window, we want to open up an immersive space and dismiss an immersive space. That's really the only difference here. All right, so if we look at the two, we see that it's literally the same thing. There's what's showing, is showing. Except remember, I kept saying that these 3D assets load as they load asynchronously, and we need to do it as a task. That's what's happening here. So whenever this changes, we need to make sure we do this as a task now. And if it's showing, we await and open the immersive space, passing the ID. Otherwise, we dismiss the immersive space. Now, the interesting thing about this, maybe it's not that interesting to you, but it has an implication. there's no ID that you pass to dismiss immersive space. Although there is an ID for dismiss window. The reason why is that you can have multiple windows in a shared space. However, in immersive space, you can only have one, right? It's not in a shared space, so there's only one immersive space at a time. So it doesn't make sense to pass an ID because it's the one that's open. There can only be one. All right, cool. So now we have these 3 previews. So now we can see what our modules, or at least the details of the module, looks like. So this first one is the globe. The next one, and by the way, whenever you have multiple previews listed like this, you'll see them listed in the previewer as these little cards or buttons. So if I click orbit, it's going to render our orbit. And you'll notice here that spinning, that's the async task. It takes a little bit of time to load that from disk and do the processing to show it. Once it does, it's here. That's why it needs to be as a task. All right, so now we can see the content from our enum here and see what it looks like. And yeah. So let's go back up to here. So you'll notice here that we first have all of this VStack stuff here, which goes over this, like basically this stuff right here. But then the next thing in our H stack, remember this, we're in our H stack, is our module.detail view. So the module.detail view is the thing that we were just looking at. Where is it? Here we are here. Yeah, it's literally this right here. So we're going to call ourselves. We're going to pass in this stuff here, basically our content, and that's it. So I think we've gone through. Yeah, we finished the module stuff, which is good. So we can move on from here. Next, we can go to the globe view, and I'm going to take a quick break before jumping into this. I've already been here for an hour and a half, so I'll be right back. back again. I just realized that I was clipping because I had I don't know why I had gain extra high on my microphone. On the output fader, not on the input. But yeah, yeah, I guess we can get back into it. I'm only gonna spend a few more minutes doing this because, yeah, I won't say why. But let's say if people are here and start, joining, then maybe I'll stay longer. Anyways, let's go over this globe. All right, so again, this should look very familiar by now. We have a view. We're going to grab our view model because we may need to set some state or read some state from our view model. And we're going to render out our view because this is a view. So the first thing we're going to create is a Z stack. And note here that we have this control panel guide, which is supposed to be an alignment guide. This doesn't really exist. And the only way that this can exist is via an extension. We'll go over that extension definition now. So here we have an extension to horizontal alignment. And note here that it's just like the vertical alignment. So here we have a private struct called control panel alignment, which is an alignment ID, it conforms to alignment ID. And it has a default value, which is very, 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 very similar. In fact, it's the same as a vertical alignment. So we go to our context, which is passed in the closure, and we're going to just say horizontal.center. Next, we need a way to be able to access that, the control panel guide. That's what we're accessing here. So the static let control panel guide, saying that is equal to a horizontal alignment of control panel alignment.self. Well, that's so that we can just do control panel guide like that. All right, so the first thing is we have this earth. I'm gonna call it a view for now because that's how we're rendering it. But within this view, there's probably some entities and components and materials and all the other things. I won't go into this just yet. We're gonna go into that later. We have a drag rotation, and it looks like we have a pitch limit of 90 degrees. And then we pass in an alignment guide. Again, that alignment guide is the control panel guide. And that's so that this control panel is always in the correct position relative to the earth. And here we are, our global controls. So this is our control panel, just FYI, if that's not obvious. So we have our global controls, which is a separate view, which here it is here, globe controls. And we have some bindings. So on change of the model, if the globe is rotating, that's this bit right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get back whether or not it is rotating. This is basically the value that we care about, the true or false. What we're gonna do is we're going to say, all right, well, if this is true, then we want to rotate. Otherwise, we don't want to do anything. And note here that we set the speed of the rotation on the model. I think that's the key to see here. So that's model.globeEarth.speed. So because this is bound to our model, whenever this changes, something will get updated on the model. Same thing on disappear. All we're doing is we're going to our model and setting is showing globe to false. All right. So let's go on to our controls. Just this little bit right here. And it's fairly straightforward, right? So again, we have our model that we're grabbing from our environment. And now we have some internal state. The is tilt picker visible. All right, so the tilt picker is, okay, can I not show that? All right, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show that, but it's the thing that has the separate list of things to pick from. And that's set as state on the view because technically that doesn't need to be on the view model, right? It only matters when you're on this particular view. So that's definitely state for here. All right, anyways, we bind to our model and we're gonna create a V stack, a vertical stack. And it looks like we're doing a tilt button guide. So it looks like we have a extension down here somewhere for that tilt button guide. Yeah, we do. And it looks like we're bounding that to as a horizontal, the tilt button alignment. Okay, it's a horizontal alignment, looks like. All right, so we have our globe tilt picker, whether or not that's visible. And we're gonna go into, well, I think I've already read that, my bad. I just realized I've already went through that. The next thing we're gonna have is our H stack. All right, so this is going to be these elements here: the sun, the poles, the rotation, and the tilt. So notice here that we have this tilt here, the title tilt label, like that thing here. And we also have some state here is on. And we need to know that because remember, we're rendering this in a VStack based on whether or not it's visible. So whenever this is visible, we want to then render like all of the things that are here, the global tilt picker. And we'll look into how that's defined in a second. But before we go into that, note here that we have this help, the sun. So that's if you were to hover over this, hopefully maybe it'll show it. Yeah, so that's what help is. It's good for accessibility, I think, or discoverability. So yeah, so you hover over it and stay, it'll pull up the help. All right, and note here that we're also using system images. Let's see if I can pull these up. Font. Is it SF font? Oh yeah, symbols. Here we are. All right, so if we do sun.max, you'll see here that we're just using symbols that are made available to us in the SF symbol pro, like this thing right here. So that's what these system images are. All right, let's go on. We see that we have the toggle style as a button. We have button style is borderless. None of these really matter. The only thing that really matters here is the on change. So you'll see here that whenever we change, and we're looking specifically at global tilt, we're gonna see get our closure tilt, and then we're just going to set that. So the tilt date. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there are 5 tilt dates, maybe. See? Oh wait, no, never mind. Okay. I wonder if we're doing if they're doing a calculation to determine what season you're in and just using the date. I don't know if I would have done that because I don't like time math. It's the worst. But hey, maybe they have done it in one place and it's easy to do. We'll see. All right, so let's go to our global tilt picker. And yeah, we have our model again, and we have our binding is visible, which is important because that's the list. It's a list, and I think it's helpful if I show that. So let's go to here. Let's view. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. It's planet Earth. View the globe. All right, here's our tilt picker. So you see this list? That's why it's a true or false. Like we need to know whether or not this is to be shown. So that's what that is visible. All right, anyways, we're going to draw out a grid. The alignment is leading, so we're going to left align it. Let's see if that is in fact left aligned. It looks like that is in fact left aligned. The text is going to be tilt along with the font. Yeah, okay, all right. Let's see if that's what it says. Yep, see, text, tilt. And there's a grid cell anchor in the center. Is it centered? Yep, here we are. So in this grid, it is centered. And next we have a divider, which, okay, all right, we're doing something with the grid, okay. And now we go through each of our tilts. Oh, so we do have the tilt. Okay, so it is an enum. That's what I would have expected. So this must be a case iterable enum as well. Let's confirm. Oh, here we are. I'm sorry, it's down here. Yep, case iterable. And I think that's where this all cases comes from, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's exactly where it comes from. Perfect. Oh, wow. Okay, whoa, shit. Damn it. All right, I just lost my place, so let's just close all of these and go back. All right, now we're back to our globe tilt. And let's see how we have this defined. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases, which is what I was expecting, which is why when I saw a date, that was a little weird. But now I see what's happening here. So yeah, we have ID, and that's because this is identifiable. And then we have the date, and this is an optional date, and we're going to say let month equal switch self. So we're going to switch. So based on whether or not we're March, June, September, or December, we're going to do something. So it looks like if there's case .none when we're just going to do 0. If it's March, we'll do 3. If it's June, we'll do 6. September 9 and December 12. And look, let's see. If month is equal to 0, we don't want to do anything. Otherwise, we want to do calendar.auto-updating current.date. Interesting. I don't know what that means. This is a new one for me. A calendar that tracks changes to the user's preferred calendar. Mutated this calendar will no longer... Okay. I'm not sure if I really understand that. But whatever, it's cool. So we're going to pass in our month. And then the day is always going to be 21. Okay, that's interesting. All right, and then the name. Okay, this is just a nice name. Basically, it's this right here. Oh, wait. So if I click here, you see March equinox, June solstice. We have March equinox, June solstice. So this is just the related data or the associated data for that particular case in the ENU. All right, so here's our globe tilt. We go through all the cases, so we get our tilt, and then we're going to format this as a grid row of buttons, and then the model.globe tilt is equal to the tilt. Okay, its visible is always going to be false as we render it, and then the label, text button style is borderless, and then there's an image of a check mark, which is to the right of the button, and I think that's what a grid row does. So it'll automatically like space out the content based on some grid so that there's alignment. And here we can see that happening here. So we have 1 and 2, 1, 2. So this is just a tilt picker. Now the thing that's a little bit weird to me is, oh, never mind. It's not weird. Here we have the on change of the global tilt. So we are actually doing the state update. All right. Next, we have our globe module, and this is the 2D image. All right. So that's all we're rendering here is an image, which is 2D, and scale to fit. So if we look at the whole thing together, which that's definitely not it. I think I need to go to the modules. Module detail. Globe. Here we are. Yeah, so that's the view when all together. All right, so yeah, that's our modules and the globe. Orbit is very similar. Solar system is very similar. Reality views. This is a little bit more stuff. We will go through that another time. Same with entities. So remember, you have entities, and then you throw your entities inside of your reality views. Your systems are compositions of entities. The model is just like literally our model and our view model. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. Hopefully this has been helpful just going through this. I'm going to do more of this to like really kind of get a handle on what all we can do, as well as just like how all this works. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Please ask them. That may help me with tomorrow's stream, if I do tomorrow's stream. In any case, thanks for joining. Peace.